The great example, it's exactly WEF. Larry Fink, who is in charge on the biggest corporation in the world, is running now WEF, and they arrange agreement with United Nations to run and to implement this Agenda 2030. And this agenda, it's political agenda, and every country needs to lead it. For just my viewers, our Prime Minister says that we are going in this way very good. We are 8th in the world implementing Agenda 2030. I think there is a huge impact of corporation in this agenda, and that means they will building this surveillance state, but around the world.
Yes. Okay. Sri Lanka was also #1 in the agenda. They weren't number 8. They were #1. They had the highest ESG score in the world, and they believed all the net zero nonsense. And they went with, the farming practices. The whole country's food system collapsed. The palace was overrun. The country collapsed. It's a disaster. And this came out of the 1992 Rio Earth Summit Treaty, the whole idea of Agenda 20, Agenda 2030, Agenda 19, sustainable development. The idea that you need a centrally planned international body to regulate every aspect of human development. That's essentially what sustainable development is. You can't have transportation, you can't have food production, you can't have housing, you can't have construction, any aspect, economic activity without considering the planet. And you need essentially mid-level, unelected, bureaucratic bean counters with UN ideology implementing this. And it's a frightening agenda. I do have good news. Now, as much as I just criticized President Trump, he has been phenomenal on the UN, United Nations climate agenda. He's been phenomenal pushing back the Green New Deal, phenomenal pushing back net zero. He is officially pulling us, the United States, out of this Sustainable Development 1992 UN Earth Summit. He's announced his intention earlier in January of 2026 for the U.S. to be out. I believe it'll take 1 year, and the U.S. will be formally out of that treaty. In order to get back in, it would have to be resubmitted to the United States Senate, which would be very unlikely, so it makes it difficult for a future climate activist president to get us back in. In the case of the EU, you have people like von der Leyen, who I consider, an evil woman pushing this agenda. When you have the whole idea of net zero in the EU, when the Netherlands farmers rose up a couple years ago against the net zero climate policies for agriculture, they ended up throwing manure all over the entrance of the EU, which I can't think of a better example of a place that deserved manure or crap or shit thrown on it than the building of the EU Parliament, which I've spoken at in Brussels before. I did a movie premiere of Climate Hustle there back in 2016, I believe, or 2016. And the EU is structured, and I've done a little bit of research on this. The EU is structured in a way where they don't really care what each country thinks. They don't care what the voting bloc. It's sort of the way the bylaws are written, the EU unelected bureaucrats and leadership can do whatever the hell they want, and they can go against the will of the member nations. And essentially, even though a lot of these countries, from Germany to UK recent elections to even France, have all turning against the net zero green agenda, the sustainable development, the EU goes full steam ahead. So I would recommend, if there's any way, you need a mass exodus. You need to abolish the EU. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I think there's no amount of individual country prime ministers or voting that's going to get you out of it. These are dead set bureaucrats who are dead set on implementing their agenda, and they're going to do it. I don't know how you stop them. It's got to be it's got to be mass protest. And you've got to shut the EU down in some way. But sustainable development is one of the evils. It's just basically, it's Marxist communism in another form. It's climate communism is all it is. It's literally a planning of a bean counting, bureaucratic accounting of every aspect of your life. But instead of for the workers or for the state under communism, this is all for, the idea of the planet, and the planet's going to smile and the climate will smile when you're doing this. It's a weird virtue signal with huge human costs. But people, they try to indoctrinate children from grade from the youngest ages all the way through college and university, they have to go along with this agenda because it's the moral thing to do. And meanwhile, the results are pure evil because it creates poverty, creates shortages, and it creates, essentially a great reset world. And we have, even here in the United States, you have CNN proposing carbon passports to limit our travel, where the government would monitor how much you travel. When you hit your sustainable development level, your travel will be limited. In England, in UK, they proposed government, energy passports, where the government would monitor your train and plane travel, your energy use, your electric bills. If you exceed it, you owe money. If you're under it, you get some kind of a credit. And this is where they call for global governance, and again, all tied in with the Davos agenda. So to go back to your first question, you got me convinced here. We're in a pause at the moment, or at least a outward pause of this whole agenda, but there's a lot happening behind the scenes, and all they're really doing is just sort of waiting it out, and they're going to come back. They're waiting for the next virus. They're waiting for a big thing they can claim as climate change. They're waiting for a war. They're waiting for another terrorist act to just continue to chip away and take away our liberties.